Coming to you from sunny California and the Great White North. Get ready. We are breaking down the obstacles on the Armchair Ninja Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Armchair Ninja Podcast. It is Thursday, March 9th, 2017. My name is Rich, and joining me this week, once again, is Bijan. How you making out?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Doing good. And we also have someone else joining us this week. David Broome is the executive producer of Ultimate Beastmaster, one of our new favorite shows, and he is also the president of 25/7 Productions. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Guys, my pleasure and thrilled to be with you.
So Dave reached out to us on Twitter, and we couldn't pass up the opportunity to pick his brain about Ultimate Beastmaster because it is absolutely phenomenal. And I have to say, second episode didn't let us down. So Bijan and I will be going through that in more detail later, but first we kind of wanted to get a few answers on some of the things that have been really nagging at us about the show, and it's a great opportunity.
Go for it. Fire
Give
away.
all the money to the hosts of Team South Korea. They are the freaking best.
It's so funny you saying that because I'm looking right now. I'm in front of my computer screen. I'm looking at social media, and so many people are posting these hilarious gifs and memes of our South Korean hosts. They are amazing. I mean, I can see them blowing up in a big way around the world on social media.
Oh yeah, they are the true heroes of the show. Like, I love the show. I love the competitors, everything about it. But those hosts are like the true heart and soul. I get so excited watching every single competitor run just to see the reactions of these guys.
I know. You know what? It's pure and it's real. I never told them to do it. I didn't even know they were going to do this. They were fantastic hosts. They've worked together before. I mean, all the hosts are great on the show. I really think we did a great job from our other executive producer, Young Yam, did an amazing job in finding these people. But when I looked from my control truck after the first run, and I'm looking at the South Korean hosts, and they are starting to dance. We almost stopped the show down. Like, we almost grinded the show to a halt from the production because everyone in the control truck was looking at the screen where our South Korean hosts were, and our jaws dropped because we loved them. I mean, it was just instant, oh my God, these guys are going to blow up.
Oh yeah, their energy is so infectious, man. I love it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that actually makes me wonder, was it the plan all along to showcase the different hosts, or did they kind of lead you to that decision by seeing how they engaged everyone? Yeah,
that's a good question. It was the plan from day one to really create this global competition that incorporated, these different languages and cultures into the show. And, I didn't know until I shot it and started to see what we were going to do with the edit, exactly how to do it, because there's a lot of different ways that could work or not work. And so that's the one part we had to kind of figure out because, I had these picture-in-picture boxes. I wanted the audience to really feel for what the hosts from those countries were feeling and representing and saying. So the global audience can kind of just be on this fun journey, no matter where what country that competitor is from. So that was the plan from the beginning. I just didn't know until I started to do the actual edits how we would make it work.
Yeah, it worked out in the end because it draws you in a way that you couldn't have with just two hosts, right? So you actually get the home team's reaction to when their competitor falls out, and there's nothing that can compare to that. You'll never get that kind of engagement from the U.S. host that you have from the team South Korea as their team is falling out. So
you'll never get it. And the other thing is that the concept that from the beginning was, how can I create this, video game that comes to life, but with this, hardcore obstacle course. I really wanted to make, the toughest obstacle course in the world, but then give it this Olympic vibe. So, you're kind of mixing in a lot of different ingredients into that kind of a cake. And it was important to make sure that we were giving the viewer just something that they have not seen before. I listened to your guys' podcast off of the premiere show, and what I wanted to come on was, I think you guys said something that really was important for me, which was the tone, because the tone of this show, done the wrong way, could really, fall off a cliff in a hurry.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
It has to be grounded in an amazing obstacle course with fantastic athletes. And then at the same time, the show's over the top by design. When I had the idea and I knew that I wanted to create a beast, let's face it, we're not trying to take ourselves so seriously with that. We want the audience to smile. We want you to laugh, but not laugh at the athletes, because there's nothing that they're doing that's not anything but spectacular. So it's that, and I think it was hard, by the way. It was really tough, and I really appreciate you guys recognizing that, because it's a tight wire to walk on here when you're trying to find that kind of a balance.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I mean, the tone, it hits so perfectly compared to a lot of other shows in the same genre, and it really stood out. So good job on that. But man, I mean, the one thing that also stands out to me is the obstacles themselves. I mean, with a lot of obstacle course shows, we get a lot of redundant obstacles where they're the same thing over and over again. And I have to say, the creativity going on with the obstacles and the formatting that you guys have, really spectacular. So, like, what was the idea going into this? Like, how did you guys form up all these obstacles and the formats involved with each stage?
Well, it's a good question. This is a team effort. And, I sat down with Travis McDaniel, who you may know or know his company, ATS, and they make, the obstacles on Ninja. And Travis and myself and ATS have been working together for many, 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 many years on lots of our shows. And we all sat down in a room and started to riff on what we wanted to achieve from a physical obstacle standpoint. We wanted something obviously different than anything that's been done out there. Look, let's be honest. An obstacle course show, whether it's American Ninja Warrior or the other ones that have been done all over the world, at the end of the day, somebody is running and overcoming a physical obstacle. The question is, what can we do and how did we want to attempt it to be different? And the main component for me was I wanted movement in these obstacles. I wanted there to be a different dynamic than we've seen. The reason why this is a beast, the reason why we're having fun with this mechanical monster, if you will, is because I wanted the obstacles to be based off of that. And we came up with fun, silly names, of course. Some work, some don't, as far as, what you come up with. But the truth is that, we kind of played off the anatomy and we played off of the, what a mechanical monster might have in there. But that's what drove the creative aspect to this stuff. So in Ultimate Beastmaster, as you guys know, these obstacles have movement to them. They're mechanical. They spin. They go up and down like they're on elevators. There's movement in almost every obstacle, which is very different, and also gives you that video game feel to it. So that was key. And that's what we did as a starting point. And then, as you guys know very well, because I think you do a really good job at dissecting these obstacles across the board, there's a real science to this stuff. And what I mean by that is that there's a real science to the body parts that are being used and what order these obstacles go in. Are we pushing someone's lower body strength? Are we testing their core strength? Are we moving to their upper body? And if we are, you want to make sure that one obstacle after the next isn't testing and pushing the same muscles, because somebody, even a great athlete, eventually is going to fail if your obstacles are in the wrong order. So there's a lot to this, a lot more than anybody would ever think. So we were driven by the movement and the kind of video game feel built into what we would think would be the anatomy of a beast, this mechanical monster, and then grounded it in the real authenticity genuinely tough obstacles. And you guys have seen some of the athletes, and you're not. I don't think you're up to the episode yet, but we have Yuji, who is the world champion Sasuke. I guess all-time great.
Yep, two-time victory winner. Oh, yeah. Love that guy.
And you're not. I don't think you've seen that episode with him yet, have you?
Not yet.
No, but I am so looking forward to it.
Yeah,
it's rough, doing these week by week, man.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, wait till you guys get up to that episode. I won't ruin anything for you, but I can't remember which episode he's in now. I'm thinking 6, but you're going to see what he says after he runs the course. I'm not going to let you know where he goes because I don't want to ruin it. But it's all about the authenticity for these athletes. But I will say this, every single one of them, and some have competed in, whether it's been Ninja or Sasuke or other types of obstacles, all said it was the toughest course that they've ever took on.
Yeah, I'm noticing a distinct lack of completions in a lot of these stages.
Yeah.
They're going far, but they're not quite getting to the end. But the obstacles are fair. I like the balance, right? You can see that it's possible, but it is tough. It is so tough for them to get through.
For sure. And remember one thing, when you're watching a show like, American Ninja Warrior or Sasuke or one of the others that you've seen on the air, the audience and the athletes are aware of what types of obstacles they're going to have to tackle from the second they go on that show or run that course. In a first season show like Ultimate Beastmaster, nobody knew around the world what they were going to be put through. All they knew was that we were putting them through a physical test. Everyone had to do 5 or 6 different exercises that we evaluated, the same exercises, by the way, to test their upper lower body strength, stamina, balance, you name it. We did it all. Filmed it everywhere around the world and then evaluated and graded each one of these athletes. But because they never had a chance to ever see anything until they came onto the set, which was mind-blowing for them, you could expect the first season's cast to be to have it the toughest go at it because nobody knows what was coming. As you guys know, I think you've even reported, we already filmed, shot, and I'm editing right now, season 2.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. It's pretty amazing. Different countries. We haven't made that announcement yet. That's going to be a big press release.
Mm. So going on, you were speaking about the competitors and everything, and I have to say, the choice of competitors had amazingly compelling stories, and they were super high level. That's one thing that really stood out to me, that we don't have a whole lot of, just everyday schmucks. And sometimes that's fine and all, but, it's nice seeing a show that's really, really high-level competitors. So I'm just curious, where did the mind frame come from choosing all these competitors from around the world? I mean, there's so many various different countries and backgrounds and everything. I mean, it sounds like it might have been really tough choosing all these different competitors. So give us just a little rundown.
Yeah, it was unlike anything that's really kind of been attempted. It's one thing to reach into your own backyard and try to find people who have great stories that you root for, and at the same time are great athletes. But when you're reaching out to Japan or South Korea or Brazil, you really have to find people who you feel could compete at a very, very high level. So we didn't want professional athletes in the sense of, people who are only professional. We wanted people who might have been at that high level or, maybe have been professional and been retired. So, we have world champion ice climbers and rock climbers and former Olympians and certainly CrossFit experts and all kinds of things because we are trying to push it a bit. We don't want the everyday person to be able to do this, but I want the everyday person to be able to aspire to do this. And I believe we will get that, for sure. And I already know it from our second season, that we just shot. So, the cool thing about the show is if you go and try to cast people in Brazil, they have a certain way of working out and training and competing, and which is very different than the contestants and athletes in South Korea, for example. So we worked with a local casting team and ourselves to jointly figure out, okay, where can we go find these people? Some people are in gyms, but other people are not. In some countries, working at a gym like a CrossFit here just isn't popular. Some people do parkour, which has nothing to do with being inside a gym, and we need to go and find them. So it was a process. And what was important for us is that if somebody had a great backstory but couldn't handle it athletically, they never made it on the show. And if somebody was a great athlete but without a great backstory, they didn't make it on the show either. I wanted that blend. And I wanted to do those backstories in a more concise, crisp way, because I think the audience just wants enough information to get to root for somebody, hear what makes them special, and go. And I don't want to slow, these episodes move really quick, as you guys know. They just, they fly by. So it was important not to sit there for 90 seconds and do a backstory on somebody, but just try to get the essence of somebody quickly.
Yeah, your guys' approach to telling the stories and the vignettes and everything, probably the best I've ever seen out of any show. Absolutely spot on point. So that one really stuck out to me. Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, I was going to say the pacing is perfect because you get little snippets of what you need, and then it moves on, and then you get a little more as it goes. So you're not waiting and waiting for 5 minutes as it runs down and everything. You get enough to care. And the more they progress, the more you care, right? You get to see them doing multiple stages all in that one episode.
You absolutely nailed that. That was the goal. Was if somebody moved down into further levels, I'm going to give you more information on them. The better they are, the further they go, the more I'm going to tell you. So why sit there and I had some great stories to tell, but if I had a great story to tell on somebody who never made it past the third obstacle, you look at me as a viewer, I think, and go, all right, that's a great story, but why the hell did you just waste all my time on that? Great. Now I feel bad, but whatever. I want to get vested in people through the episode. So you're absolutely right with that, Rich. It was the concept was to dole out information as the show moves on.
Yep. So no 2-minute videos of a dude shirtless showing off his abs near horses? Nothing?
Exactly.
You can't expect that, man?
That's not in our show.
Ah, shucks.
Yeah. I noticed actually a couple of the shows you've worked on, one of your other big ones being The Biggest Loser, are really focused on...
created that.
Love that show.
You really seem to be big on fitness, or maybe it's just the impression I'm getting, or is that something central to your life?
No, it's interesting. I mean, I do lots of different kinds of shows, but what always draws me into a show like Biggest Loser or an Ultimate Beastmaster. I did Strong for NBC, which only made it. We only were on for one season. We really had a tough go at it for a lot of different reasons. But I like what we were just talking about, which is having people overcome something physical that then taps into some emotional aspect. When you're watching a sporting event, whatever it is, and an obstacle course is obviously part sport, and somebody overcomes something, it taps into so many other aspects of that person's life and our lives as viewers. We imagine ourselves accomplishing other things. Because if you can take on the beast, I mean, here's a fun, silly kind of analogy, but if you can take on the beast, then you could wake up in the morning and kick ass in your job. Or you could be a better son, brother, husband, wife, mom, whatever it is. These things always move you emotionally and inspirationally through your life. And that's why I'm drawn to creating these type of shows. Because I love that. There's nothing better than seeing somebody do something physical and you're just blown away by it. But then you know what that's going to do for their life. I think it was in our second episode, maybe the first one, Omar from Mexico. I can't remember which episode he was in. He runs through level 2 and ultimately ends up failing at a point. But he stands up and he comes out onto the sidelines there, and after he explains what happened and what went wrong, he throws his hands up in the air and he says in Spanish, "This is the best experience in my life." And you look at his face and you could just see what this is going to do in a ripple effect in everything else that he's got going on. And there's nothing better as a producer and creator to come up with those kind of shows.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So is the concept yours? I don't know if we actually answered that already. Did you come up with the concept for the Beast and the whole thing? I mean, I know there's a lot of collaboration, but yeah, for the Beast.
Yeah, I created the show, and I create almost. I think I create every show that I've ever produced, just about. And yes, I created it and I executive produced it. I got the idea when I was driving and stuck in traffic on the 101, right, Bijan? I was in a bad traffic jam,
poor you,
and
man.
the concept came to me.
Yeah, you. I'm sure you had plenty of time waiting on that
Plenty of time in that parking lot.
So one of the other big faces of the show, obviously, is Sylvester Stallone. How did he get looped into the project?
Well, Sly and I have had a relationship. We spent some time. We had worked. We did Strong together. We knew some of the same people. I was very close with his producing partner, Kevin Templeton, and I was talking at a dinner about the show. At that point, to come up with this kind of a show, I first had the idea, and then it took me nearly a year to do a digital build of what the Beast looks like. A whole CGI thing. It's pretty spectacular. I'm going to put it up online one day. But I was sitting at a dinner and I was talking about the next project that I was working on, and I showed these guys the picture of the Beast, and everyone's mouth dropped, and Sly and I were talking about it next, at his house. And it was just, a perfect marriage because, Sly is, besides being this iconic superstar of, an action hero and a director and, just an actor himself, he's a brilliant marketer and he's got a brilliant, eye to lots of things. And so it was, when I was working on the pose, for example, of what this Beast how it would be built, we made some modifications. Sly, offered the suggestion of putting the Beast's shoulder blades higher up in the air and the neck lower, the head down, so it looks like it's in this praying kind of, attack mode, rather than one of the original things I had, which was having this head way up in the air. I mean, this set goes 85 feet high, 600 feet long.
It's hard to imagine anyone making a backyard version of it, that's for sure.
Nobody, that's right. You could say anything you want. I love American Ninja Warrior, but you're not building the Beast in your backyard. That's for darn sure. So, so Sly and I, just ended up partnering into it. And, as you guys saw, he's in several of the episodes as far as doing some setup and introduction. He doesn't want to take away from the real stars of the show are the athletes themselves, then our hosts, and of course the set and the Beast. So, when you have somebody as iconic as Sylvester Stallone, he can easily take the focus away from what's really being done. So we wanted to use him, in a very cinematic, setup to the series and use him sprinkled throughout. It's a good partnership that we have.
Yeah, man, it's perfect. So we already know that you have a second season, so obviously it's pretty popular on Netflix. They're pretty happy with the response that you've gotten.
Yeah, very, very, very successful.
That's great. I'm so ecstatic that we have more shows like this, and actually really good, because some of the obstacle course shows on TV, not so good. So thumbs up to you guys on that. But I'm curious, what's the response been, and just the turnout for everybody online and the response that you've seen? Has it been super positive? Everybody's super excited and everything?
It's kind of overwhelming. it's rare that I get, I've seen this kind of enthusiasm, which is great. I would say that we've got a fanatic fan base. And look, as I'm talking to you guys now, it's very different because on a network show, social media pops for the time that show's on, from 8 to 9 o'clock, and maybe stuff sprinkles in afterwards, and some people chat about it. But here, because it's in all of these countries around the world, and people are watching it when they want and how they want, which is the beauty of Netflix, it's nonstop. The stuff just continually rolls in on social media. And I would say that we're in a 95% a positive. Any of the negative comments I've seen are, they're just so few and far between. And the funny thing is I've actually looked for them because I care more about the negative than I do about the positive, believe it or not, just as I really want to hear people's opinions out there. And I always ask when I'm doing the edits, I ask my friends and family and people, they all know for years. I'm like, you don't even tell me one single thing you like, because I don't care. I don't care what you like. I really don't. I just want to hear what you don't like. And by the way, and it means a lot to me because, everyone's got an opinion, and I respect it. There's a lot of these are complicated shows. This is a very complicated show to put together at every level. So it's so cool to see the enthusiasm, and the press have been overwhelmingly incredibly positive. I mean, from the trades to Playboy did an amazing piece on it this past week, and tomorrow another interview that I did on Decider.com is coming out talking about how much they love the show, and it's just stuff is rolling in, and now I can even see it in some of the mom bloggers, believe it or not, some of the mommy groups where they're watching the show with their families. It's bubbling there. We're only 8 days into this, but I will tell you that it's a massive success on Netflix.
Yeah, man. I mean, Rich, why don't you tell him about your daughter and her watching the show? That was shocking to me.
Yeah, well, it's funny because you don't even know this, Bijan. I actually had my other daughter watch it with me this time. So my kids don't normally watch obstacle shows with me, but I've gotten them to watch both of these so far. I got 2 different daughters doing it. And the one tonight, she was absolutely in awe when the obstacle started sinking into the water, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it's like you have to track. It's pretty fun. How old's your daughter?
That one is 17. My other one is 20.
Okay. So, I have 23-year-old and 21-year-old daughters, 2 daughters at that age. And they're the best because they're the most critical you can ever get. And they've been with their dad for growing up in the business for 20 years. And so they don't hold back, and neither do their friends or boyfriends, and which is what I love. And everybody kind of flipped out on the early cuts of the episodes. But I'll tell you what happened was when one of my editors came in, and he said to me, he grabbed me in my office, said, this is when we were editing one of the early episodes. He said, Dave, my 7-year-old daughter is freaking out on the show. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. That's great. That's awesome to hear. Well, he brought her to the set for the shoot of season 2. And I felt like I was talking to a 25-year-old because this 7-year-old girl was telling me every single thing about every single detail about every single obstacle that we had. And it gave me goosebumps. It was just amazing. And I started to see this, and I'm seeing it now online, that it is the perfect show to sit down if especially if you've got, young kids and you want to watch as an adult, it's a parent-kid show. In a big way. We didn't set out to do that, but that's obviously we knew that we would get, I think, a big co-viewing audience. And I think that's important. Like when I started to hear that, by the way, I started to take out some of the curse words that people were saying in the show, not the contestants. Because remember, we're on Netflix, so anything can go.
Yeah.
But once I knew that families were going to really take to this, anything that our international hosts were saying even, you're in Germany, they're dropping, F-bombs and 4-letter, curses left and right. Because it's no problem over there.
Right.
But if I put that in and I've got it translated in English, and you're sitting there with your 7-year-old kid, and the next thing you know, an F-bomb comes up in German, it's a problem. So it was really cool to kind of see that kind of response from kids.
Yeah, this sport is definitely family oriented and heavy, and that's one cool thing about it. That all the response I've seen, the culture and just all the fan base of this obstacle course racing community has really taken on to the show, and they've really embraced it. I mean, there's some shows where us fans can be a little picky sometimes. We can be a little mean to some shows. I must say they have fully embraced this show, and that it takes a lot of work to do. So
I appreciate that. I saw some people early on saying, "Is this a Ninja Warrior ripoff?" Which is funny because all of these shows kind of have that element of another show, but once people got into it and gave it a chance right away, they realized it's its own show. And and there was an article that came out. I think Entertainment Weekly magazine did a piece last week because he loved the show, the writer, and wrote a piece up on why both shows, both American Ninja Warrior and Ultimate Beastmaster, are vastly different from each other, even though they certainly have the same DNA, and why both shows can and will exist. And that's the thing. Look, if you're a fan of seeing great competition, and seeing, if you're an obstacle course fan and you even aspire to want to try this yourself, you're gonna turn on Ultimate Beastmaster and you're gonna flip for it. There's no doubt. It's a fun ride. It's hard to knock the show if you're, at any level. And it's the same thing with American Ninja Warrior. It's a well done show, and I respect everybody who makes that.
Yep, 2 good shows, same genre. Love it.
Yeah, definitely. We're definitely not in a saturated market. There's plenty of room.
No, more room for others too, probably.
Yeah, and one thing I have to ask. So you mentioned about the potential of changes from criticism, for the small amount of criticism you got. Is there anything that you've decided that maybe for season 3 you'll tweak? Well,
we're gonna be changing the obstacles. So even season 2 has some of the core obstacles that I thought worked really well, but changed obstacles within episodes as well in season 2, and we're gonna push that even more in our future seasons. This is not like, and I say this in the most respectful way, this is not like an American Ninja Warrior where you're picking up and moving that set to a different town somewhere, city, and putting it on a street. When the magnitude of what this is and the complexity of what it is a very challenging production part. So we learn as we go from season to season. The show and the series will continually evolve, and I think season 1 is fantastic, and I'm thrilled that the fans and the audience are just loving it. I think season 2 steps it up in some really wild ways, which I'm going to hold off in talking about right now because I don't want to take anything away from season 1, and we'll talk more about season 2 when we get there. And the next season is going to be, after that is going to evolve even further. So I like our scoring. Remember, this is about collecting points and trying to give strategy and options and point thrusters, which play like a video game. So that, I think, is really working well. We've improved that even some more. So I think it's those kind of little tweaks that we'll constantly be making. I think, there's some visual things that we've changed. There's some cool things that's coming down the line that I'd love to talk to you guys about when we get closer to it, because right now it'll just, it's still too far away.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Just don't get rid of the hosts of South Korea. Like if for some reason in future seasons you guys switch it up with the countries or whatever, have South Korea just join the American hosts. They are the best.
That's not a bad idea. Maybe Korea from now on does other countries as well.
Yeah.
Buddy.
I don't know if this is something that was already in your mind, but you have to keep in mind that if you ever get to the point that the course really needs to ramp it up, having the beast evolve, I love that imagery. So just keep that in mind of making the beast.
Yeah, it's going to evolve, and there's some fun things coming for season 2. Some cool graphics. The graphic part of the show is really important to me. The production value is where I kind of started with the design of the course and the light show that you're seeing in there, and then the graphics are, tremendously over the top. So again, to give it a little bit of that video game feel to it, and we're pushing it even more in the second season.
So good. Just go all out with that, man.
Yeah,
people,
it's fun.
Yeah, millennials like me will so much appreciate that.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to see. It's just a fun ride. It's like it really is. The idea is really just hey, you want to have a good time. You want to forget about the shit during the course of your day. Just sit down and binge through a bunch of these episodes of Ultimate Beastmaster, and that was really the goal from day one. I think we're in a good time as well for people just to forget about, this is, we didn't do this on purpose, but to stumble into a bunch of countries working together and competitors from different countries cheering each other on, it couldn't be better timing, in my opinion, for what's going on in our country and around the world to see that kind of camaraderie.
Absolutely. You just have to get a Team Canada in there and everything will be perfect.
Well, see, you know what? I've got to tell you, I'm seeing a lot of comments from Canada online. A lot.
Good. We need it. We need something up here. We need our own OCR team show, something. Don't start with me.
Well, maybe we'll do Canada in a season for sure. That'll be fun. We'll put skis on everybody in one of the challenges.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Skates. We're great on skates. Give us some sticks and we'll be good.
That's right.
So, David, thank you very much for joining us. Was there anything you've got coming out besides Beastmaster you wanted to promote or talk about?
Well, we have a couple of new projects coming out, but we're in production on them right now, so they're still a little too far down the line. But there's another big physical competition show that we're doing that is on the scope and scale of close to this. That I'll talk to you guys about when we get closer to it for sure.
Nice, yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, definitely let us know.
So, David, you were talking about getting response and feedback and everything. How can people contact you, your Twitter or anything, so you can hear some of the feedback that everybody's all excited about?
I love it. Thanks. Anybody can hit me up at Broome88, BROOME88 on Twitter. And just tell me the good, bad, and whatever you want. I'm active on it. I kind of blow up to like thousands and thousands of followers, and then it's hard for me to keep up with it. But then it goes down and drops. But every time I have a new production on, I get back on it. So I love interacting with the audience for sure. And I'm open to hearing anybody's thoughts. It doesn't matter to me. I really love hearing from the fans and from any of the viewers. So Broome88 on Twitter is probably the best.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a thrill having you on, and I'm sure we'll have you back when this next big project's ready.
Okay, for sure, guys. I really appreciate it, and great job on your podcast, and I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Okay, so that was our interview with David Broome, the executive producer. How cool was that, Bijan?
Pretty awesome, man. I really liked all the insight that he gave, and yeah, I'm excited for season 2. I mean, that was a big tell for me. I had no idea that they not only got the go-ahead for season 2, but they already filmed the thing. And it sounds like a lot of fun changes are happening, so I'm excited.
Yeah, he seems really engaged and anxious to make changes and tweaks as he needs to, and listening to the fans. That's great. So definitely tweet at him if you have ideas or if you have any criticisms or praise. I mean, he says he doesn't want praise. Everybody wants a little bit of praise now and then. Yeah.
But it's good that they're listening to feedback, and it sounds like he's very passionate about the show. And that means a lot, because I've definitely seen some shows, smarters, that, can definitely share some of that passion and enthusiasm from their target audience.
Yeah, for sure. So we still have, that was just the first part of the episode. We still have to cover the Ultimate Beastmaster episode 2, the Ninja Warrior UK finale.
Boo.
Well, it's the last one. That's what I'd be a little excited about.
Boo.
And some ninja news, and there's quite a bit of that going on too. So let's jump into Ultimate Beastmaster episode 2. Or should we get Ninja Warrior UK out of the way?
No. I mean, it's crap. Nobody wants to listen about.
All right, we'll put it off for now. We'll focus on the better part here. So
y'all want to know what happens? It sucked. There you go. Have fun. Yeah. All right, Ultimate Beastmaster.
Ultimate Beastmaster, just as good as the first one. I was a little worried because it is the same course. One thing that was interesting to note is that they didn't review the scoring system, the course again. They actually just assumed that you had seen the first episode. There's no reason to go over it all again. I like that.
Yeah, it's important to... this is where the point of it being on Netflix really stands out, where they can go straight into the next episode and not have to do a lot of the, educating, fluffy parts of the show, just because, hey, the show is kind of meant to be binge-watched, and they I guess, respect the audience. They respect the intelligence of the audience, where they don't have to hold your hand every time. Because, honestly, it would get really old if they just showed me the course over again and told me all the rules every single episode. I'd be like, dude, come on. So, props to them. They know their audience. They did it well. And, once again, man, these stories and these competitors, perfect. I loved it.
Yeah, no complaints. I was a little bit worried at the beginning of the episode because I wasn't getting drawn in quite as quickly. But the more it progressed, the more I was rooting for someone. And I'm kind of curious if we were rooting for the same guy or girl as the show progressed. Who was your number one? Who were you like, oh, I need this person to make it to the end?
Well... Shoji Nakayama stole my heart. He wasn't necessarily the guy I'm rooting for, like, oh, he's going to win it, because I kind of figured he wasn't going to. But the dude with the samurai hair and everything, that guy just epitomizes everything that I loved from Sasuke and just all those Japanese shows I used to watch as a child that basically made me fall in love with the sport in general. And Soji he was so fun. He was so over the top in all the right ways. I loved his catchphrase. Everything about the guy was perfect. And but in terms of like a competitor, I was like genuinely enthralled with. Ed Moses was had a really cool story and everything. But honestly, David Manthel, he really stood out to me. I was really rooting for that kid.
I was drawn in by Ed Moses right from the beginning, and I was actually rooting for him the whole way through. I thought he was. He's one of the older competitors. He's a little closer to my age than most of the people on here. And just seemed like a super nice guy, very strong athlete. Seemed like he had a good shot the whole way through. And just really, really good. Be a good spokesman, I think, for the show, right? He fits the mold. When you think of like an obstacle course racer, he's the kind of build and the kind of guy you expect.
I mean, he's an Olympic gold medalist in Olympic swimming, which is, you need to be like, zero body fat, like built as a brick for that. Like, and he looks it. He's definitely looks super athletic. So I was really high up on that guy. I was like, man, he's gonna get far. He can win it. He's gonna do well. And his story was really good. And as you were saying, Rich, he was very well spoken. So in terms of overall presence, I really enjoyed him. He was a little vanilla for me, I gotta admit. He's just like the average goody two shoes guy. But I was really high up on him. But David really stood out to me from Team Germany, just because his story really, really got to me. He never knew his father, or his father left him, and he was dedicating this whole show towards his mother. But he was very humble in how he spoke. You definitely could tell that he came from humble means, and he just respected everything, not only the course, but the competitors and the moment that he was in. So I really was rooting for that kid. He seemed like a really good kid. And a lot of the other competitors, they had really cool stories too. So all around, I didn't really find any competitors that I openly disliked. And sometimes it's fun to root against somebody, but I kind of enjoyed a lot of the other side characters as well. I mean, we had a special forces guy. We had, I forgot her name, but there was like some girl that was Angelica Wild Rabbit Mello. And she was just like a ball of energy. And from Team Mexico. So there were some really fun competitors on this episode, I gotta admit.
Yeah, I think the closest thing we had to like a villain of the episode had to be Team Brazil, right? The Johannes Gomlin. And it wasn't that he was
I didn't find him bad at all, man.
No, but he kind of had a little more of an arrogance to him, I guess. He didn't seem as soft-spoken and quite as... He definitely was there to win.
I kind of found it more of like a friendly rivalry between Ed Moses and Johannes. For everybody, like, we're kind of skipping ahead and everything, but for a good portion of the show, Johannes and Ed Moses were kind of neck and neck in terms of the point system, and it was kind of like they were each scouting each other, and you could see this story building towards maybe the end of them competing against each other and this story. And we had David Manthel and I forget the name from Team South Korea, but, well, there are two finalists from Team South Korea, and they were kind of like holding up the other end where they were kind of like the wild cards going into the end. But you definitely had the two standouts going towards at least stage 3, which was Johannes and Ed, and I found it a really good and invigorating story.
Oh, actually, you know what? I'm looking through my notes here. There was a villain. The guy, and I'm jumping ahead here, and that's fine, because really there wasn't much of note, I guess, on level 1.
We don't have to go step by step for this episode, guys, because, you guys know the format and the rules and everything like that.
Yeah, so I want to talk about Kuhun Lee, who jumped off the course, like just basically gave up partway through. That was crazy.
Yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, the part where he's just like, I did it fast enough, and he just jumps off so he doesn't try, right?
Yeah, that's not cool.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of not towards the heart of this type of sport, but, there is some strategy involved with that. Maybe he just thought that he reached to his point, and didn't want to maybe injure himself or something like that. So there is some strategy involved. I don't necessarily know if it worked out for him.
Yeah, it didn't. It definitely didn't work out for him. Because moving into level 2, they really struggled with the spinal ascent. That first obstacle in level 2, he was one of them that basically just used up all his time, which we didn't really see time play a factor in the previous episode, but it definitely did in this one.
Yeah, it was at least 2 competitors that almost used up all their time on the spinal ascent. And, that was a big factor in this show, and I appreciate that, stage 2 starts with a really tough obstacle. And an obstacle where, when you look at it from just a layman's perspective, it's not as, complicated as it seems, but when you really think about it and look at it, there's a lot more involved with that. And I actually am really happy by the fact that when competitors fall down on it, as long as they grab onto another stage, they can keep on trying, and we saw that. And that made for some good drama as well.
Yeah, it's kind of odd to watch them kind of slow fall their way down, trying to grab onto things. Because for those that haven't seen it, there's like a bungee cord, like a safety cord attached to them. So they don't really fall. They just kind of gently glide down, and they can grab onto things to kind of catch themselves before they hit the bottom. Mm-hmm. And that really played a factor in, I'm not going to jump ahead at this point, but the final was really interesting from that perspective.
Yes, we all have much to talk about with that, because I'm curious if you liked it or not. But, another standout to me was Jing Gong Li. He was a South Korean Special Forces guy, and he just looked so much like a great competitor, like just built for this type of obstacle course. And yeah, I was super high up. Like, honestly, going into stage 2 and stage 3, I was like, Team South Korea is going to dominate this show.
Yeah.
So I guess in stage 1, were there any standout runs to you that you wanted to talk about before we go to like stage 2 or anything?
Not really. Like you said, we don't have to kind of go in order. Just a few incidents, I guess, throughout the episode that were noteworthy. Ed Moses, who we've already mentioned as being high up on him, he had kind of an unfortunate incident on the stomach churn. It kind of made all of our stomachs churn.
Slammed his groinal region right into one of the pegs, and I damn near screamed.
Yeah, he did not look... I didn't think he did at first. They said it, and I thought, did he really? And then you could see by the look on his face, he definitely did. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He had the reaction all of us guys have been through in our lives. I'm sure all the women have seen. Yeah, that... I fell for him. That was rough.
When you're on a timed course and you're spinning in circles on it, that's not something you want to try to have to deal with in the middle of all that.
Yeah, not just him, though. David spent a long time on those spinning circles, just turning around and around and around, and I'm like, dude, you're gonna get sick. I was really worrying for both just Ed and David on those stomach turns, and that's why I like that obstacle so much, that even if you're on that obstacle, there's still that component being like, how disoriented are these guys gonna be going into like another transition obstacle where, you know, it's timed, and if you don't time your jump, you're falling into the water. So there was a lot of components.
Yeah. So finishing up stage 2, there was like you said, the USA versus Brazil seemed to be what they were telegraphing for the final, and Japan was out once again. Like Yuji's got to pull through. Like really, you're gonna. Someone needs to pull Japan out of the slump.
I mean, both. For me, it always seems like Mexico and Japan have been struggling. I think Japan more because they're more personality based than athlete based when it comes to the competitors we've seen so far. Team Mexico, they've got really good backstories, and they're athletic, but they just haven't hit their groove yet. So those are the two countries that I'm kind of just being like, oh man, I really wish you the best. But we haven't seen much from them yet, but we're only on episode 2, man. There's plenty of opportunities left. I have to say, the German competitors, more than anything else, have really stood out to me.
Yeah.
They always seem to be like there always seems to be like some young gun that's super fit.
Yeah, from the first 2 episodes, we've definitely seen that. And I love it. I love the aesthetics of the show. I'm just picturing right now the whole final board they kind of show as, you know, who the Beastmaster from each episode is. As that fills up with all the flags and the competitors, that's going to look really, really cool.
Yeah, definitely. So, do you have anything else to say with Stage 2 or anything before we go into Stage 3? Because I have a lot to say about Stage 3.
The only last thing to touch on, I guess, is I thought it was incredibly cool when one of the competitors had nearly timed out on the first obstacle and really wanted to get down to the point thruster, so he dove down the spinal descent. That was sickening to watch.
Yeah, I did for Mexico. He had I don't know, I guess 20 seconds left, and he damn near just dove at it. It's like, I'm going for it. That was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, that made me appreciate that obstacle a lot more.
Mm-hmm. So, going into Stage 3, man, I mean, a lot of the more timed components of that stage really showed just how difficult they are when in this episode, because we're seeing like high-level athletes, and they are having a tough time on them. And yeah, it definitely, when you see people make obstacles look easy, you don't really get as much of an appreciation for it. So I'm glad at the beginning of this season, we are getting an episode where these competitors are really showing just how difficult this stuff is. And boy, oh boy, I mean, just that first part, right, of Stage 3, I kind of found it amusing how everybody was just missing their mark on it. But the part that really stood out to me, I forget, it's like the rings. I don't know the name of the obstacle. Do you, Rich?
I think it's called the Coil Crawl.
The Coil Crawl. Okay, that sounds about right. The part where they have to, where it's sinking and it's all timed and they have to like go through it, like get through it as quickly as possible to get to the stationary optional part. That, like, I got a better understanding of how fast and how difficult that is, watching Ed fail at it and a bunch of other people just being like, oh, this is it just looked a lot more difficult this time. And I appreciated that a whole lot.
Yeah, I actually was, after watching episode 1, I was thinking it wasn't really much of an obstacle. I didn't think it warranted getting points for it almost. And then you watch this episode, it's like, oh my god, that looks incredibly difficult. Like, what a difference. The whole thing sinks into the water. That was actually the one that my daughter was just couldn't believe that the thing was sinking into the water that fast, and the guy was struggling to get out of it. And it was really cool to watch.
Mm-hmm. Especially because that's an obstacle where it's slick too. There's no grip at all, so you're like, man, you have to really think about that type of obstacle. But we have to talk about that first escalator part of Stage 3 and just how everybody was mistiming that thing.
Yeah, the ejector, they call it, is like a really fast treadmill, and they have to jump on the end of it, or jump off the end of it, to grab hold of the prism strike. Well, it sounds easy enough. It doesn't look incredibly difficult, but when you see the mistiming, you realize how easy that would be to do, right? Like, you have to jump near the end, but if you're off by, half a second, you're down, your feet aren't going to have anything to push off of.
Yeah, and it also gave us the best moment of the entire episode, and I laughed way harder than I should have, where Jing Gong Li is about to run, and Team South Korea's hosts are losing their minds. They're singing, they're dancing. They're like, here we go. The first of the two competitors making it to stage 3. We are going to destroy this course. And they are so ecstatic. And this dude, and at this point, this dude's looked really impressive, you know. And he gets on the ejector, and he just absolutely whiffs it, you know. And they pan back to the South Korean hosts, and they just have the most blank faces. And they're all silent, and these hosts know what they're doing. They're just so perfect. I love these guys. And I laughed so freaking hard, dude.
Like you said, they're professional hosts. They know what they're doing, and it was funny. It was the most perfect deadpan expression, and it was just a really hilarious moment.
It was just such a dichotomy of tone, of like exuberance to complete like, oh, dejectedness, being like, it was the best.
Yeah, we didn't get as much of them this episode, but those moments definitely stood out when they were there.
They're still the highlight of this show. I love them so much. I want to marry them. That's another story. All right, so we got, like 4 competitors falling on this ejector, by the way?
Oh, yeah, it was ridiculous. They didn't get... I was looking forward to seeing more of the course on level 3, and we didn't get it this episode. They
he did not
all
get much
struggled.
Yeah, but you know what? I am fine with that. Sometimes, you know, we don't need an episode of everybody completing everything. Variety is good sometimes. Now, stage 4, dude... This gave us an interesting look at something that we didn't really see last episode, where, why don't you go into it, because I'm sure this is what you want to talk about.
You know what's funny is I was just thinking like, man, I wish I could know why they did. We just had him on the show. I could have asked him. Oh well.
Well, I can give my guesses why and stuff, but
so level 4, what you described before, it's like a rock climbing wall into some fingertip ledge type, slots, and to like a chimney climb. I guess they call it a spider climb. And we didn't even get that far this time. Like last time we got them almost all the way to the top. This time they were struggling right off the bat. But the weird thing was that both competitors kept falling off of the wall, and they didn't lose any height when they did. They just kept the safety harness, what you assume to be a safety harness, taut, so they would stay wherever they had gotten to at that point.
Yeah, so it brings a different dynamic of this show where, I don't know, I didn't mind it at all, and I was very curious how you'd feel, because I definitely understand a viewpoint of being like, oh, bring them down to a lower portion or at the bottom, but I feel like if you're struggling at this type of wall, which is very slick and everything, it gives an opportunity for a really lame, anticlimactic stage 4 where, you're just going to have one person getting a little bit further than the other, and you're just going to see them struggling trying to climb this wall for a whole 2 minutes. So I actually don't mind it at all, where they have to really struggle to get inch more and more up. I guess the big difference is that this show isn't necessarily geared towards exclusively rock climbers, and this is a very rock climbing heavy portion of the course, so I actually didn't mind it at all.
I didn't care for it that much myself. I kind of wanted some kind of penalty, because you see them resting. There was, he was definitely resting at times, just taking his fingers right out of the wall and giving himself a break and shaking out his fingers. I would prefer some kind of a slow fall, like, as opposed to like not have them go all the way back down to the bottom again. That would be really lame, but just have it so that they have to hold on to stop losing ground in some way. I really think that took away from the finale for me a lot.
Or maybe they lower them down to the bottom part of that portion of the stage. Maybe they can do that, because the stage is broken up into 4 parts. So, yeah, they definitely can modify that, and, I'm sure they've gotten feedback for season 2 of that. I definitely see both sides of it. I didn't mind it just because I prefer it to be close, but at the same time, I understand the component of maybe it's not necessarily fair to a guy struggling a little bit more, and the guy can just take a breather very quick and get his grip back. So I see both sides of it.
It could lead to some interesting, I don't know if it'd be intentional shortcuts almost. Like you could, I think they call it dynoing. Like they could just kind of fling themselves up the wall, knowing that they'll be able to make it all the way up and not lose ground. Even if they kind of slip off the wall, it's going to be gaining ground, so they can almost like speed climb their way up the wall.
Yeah, and I think this on stage 4. I don't even know if they know, guys. So Ed Moses made it to the end with David Manthel, the kid from Team Germany, just for people that haven't seen it. I'm sure most people have, but if you didn't, those were the 2 finalists. The big story with Johannes, he actually was one of the people that failed at the beginning of the ejector in stage 3, and that was a big story point because Johannes was so strong up until this point, and they were building him up. So it made for a good twist, and yeah, I was actually really rooting for David in the end. I'm curious. I'm excited by the fact that you were actually rooting for Ed. So we've got 2 likely people that we had difference in rooting for. And, I wish both of them well. I think Ed's age and experience in terms of burning out with muscle groups and everything, I think that caught up to him in stage 4.
Yeah, he looked exhausted. He wasn't, I was really confused at first because I could see him starting up the wall and then his muscles just kind of going completely relaxed, and then he wasn't falling, and I was really confused at first, and then it was really blatant when David fell. I was like, oh, so they're just going to let them stay where they're at as they go up. But they didn't really make it too far, nowhere near as far as the ice climber had gone last episode, but
yeah,
they were clearly exhausted by this point.
Yeah, by the way, props to the hosts, the American hosts, Terry and Carissa, because we gave them some flack last week, but they did a really good job when it came to stage 4 with a rundown explaining just why Ed was getting so tired and what was going on with him, by the fact that he wasn't using his feet to support his body, and that he was only using his upper body during the rock climbing part, and that led to him being burned out during the second portion of that stage. So they did a really good job explaining everything and guiding us through it.
It's kind of an interesting finale when you see them struggling up the wall and you have David just a little bit ahead of Ed, and you realize that if Ed could somehow pull himself up just a couple of pegs, he could actually win the whole thing. It's like they're neck and neck, and the distance difference is really, really small. I wonder if there's going to be any episodes where it's just a total blowout. Someone just scrambles up the side of the thing and someone's just left down at the bottom. It could be really interesting to see that too.
Yeah, and I'll feel really, really bad for that guy because it's 2 minutes of just like, oh man, could this 2 minutes please end already? Like we get it. It's like
that could drag on. Yeah.
Yeah. The good thing is it is 2 minutes. It's not like 5 or anything. So that's good. Yeah. Overall, good stuff, man.
Yep, thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm pacing myself. I'm trying to make sure I watch it as we're covering it, but I think I'm just going to blow through them all here soon and then rewatch them when we go to record because they're really cool to watch.
Yeah, that's all you. I'll stick with it each week so we can at least get a somewhat of a fresh viewpoint for us. And yeah, it's good stuff, guys. Definitely check it out if you haven't. And this show's going to get real busy soon, Rich. Real busy.
Yeah, we're actually going to have a little bit of a breather, though. We'll get into that. We're not going to have quite as much overlap with Team Ninja Warriors, we thought. But before we get into that, let's breeze through the Ninja Warrior UK finale here.
Have fun.
So we're down to the final 15 competitors, and they mentioned that nobody's ever attempted the final climb. From what we get later in the episode, it sounds like no one's ever attempted stage 3 before, so it was a little interesting from that perspective to see if anybody could do it.
Yeah, that's cool. Off the top of your head, Rich, name some of the competitors in the final 15. Go.
No, jeez, don't put me in this position. I don't remember anybody.
That's the point. Show sucks.
No, I could argue. I've got notes here, so it's cheating. But like, I remember really liking Kane Clark, but I couldn't describe him right now because I actually didn't care that much, I guess.
Go Ninja Dude, and that's it. I don't even know he made it. Does he even make it to I forgot everything from last week. I eject this show from my brain. Did the Ninja Dude even make it to the end? To the finals?
No, he didn't.
Well, boo.
Oh, he made it to this episode. Yeah, he did.
That's what I'm talking about, man.
Sorry, I meant you meant.
Right, cool.
I thought you meant the final stage or like to the final guys. Yeah, so the course itself was actually pretty decent. I was actually pretty impressed. They had Stage 1 being like quad steps into a rolling log, coin flip, ring jump, wind chimes, like very familiar, solid, tough obstacles.
Yeah, I can't complain.
And actually was kind of sucked into the first guy that ran the course. He had a really interesting run because he made it all the way to the chimney climb. He was like all the way through the first set of obstacles up the warped wall, and then through the Big Dipper with tassels, 3 logs, and then he timed out on the chimney climb. He was trying to race up the final bit, and he timed out. So, I mean, those kinds of runs are always good. It doesn't matter which show or which episode it is. If you're coming that close to hitting the buzzer, it's always engaging. Mm-hmm. But then it was almost spoiled right after that because the second guy that ran the course, he beat it, and he had 2 minutes left on the clock. So it kind of showed that there was so much editing on the first run that obviously the guy must have been taking a lot of breaks, because if the guy had 2 extra minutes, it must have been, that's a pretty big difference.
I have nothing to say.
Yeah. Sorry. But yeah, there's a handful of people that made it through stage 1. Stage 2 was still pretty solid. So we had this spider jump and spin cycle, salmon ladder, monkey pegs. I mean, these are all very iconic Ninja Warrior obstacles at this point.
Yeah, I was excited to see the spin cycle. I love the spin cycle so much.
We had someone go out a little bit differently than we normally see, or some way I haven't seen before. He was in the spider jump, which is like the jumping spider, but they don't have a trampoline to start the whole thing off. He started to slide down, and he grabbed the top of the walls, which it looked like it was just instinct. He wasn't really thinking, because as soon as he did it, he like rolled his eyes like, oh God, because the buzzer went, he disqualified himself.
That's got to be the suckiest way to end. You make it all the way this far, and you just touch the top of it, and like you could see the instant regret on his face. That sucks.
Yeah, for sure. We had a couple of those like disappointing ways to go out. We had somebody dip their leg in, like their foot touched the water. There's a lot of them that really struggle with the monkey pegs because the way they had it set up, the dismount from those monkey pegs looked really, really difficult.
Mm-hmm. And as I always say, guys, monkey pegs are so much more difficult than a lot of the comparators on American Ninja Warrior make it look to be. I mean, that is a brutal obstacle. So props to anybody that was able to do them. And that transition, not fun looking.
Yeah. Nothing too much to note there. They had a pretty tight time limit on stage 2. They had a 2-minute time limit, so they had to go through at a really brisk pace. It was generally okay.
It was pretty short. That's the only thing that stood out to me. It was a really short course or stage. And I think that has a lot to do with just how it's an indoor like stadium, so they might have space limitations. But yeah, that definitely stood out to me.
But we had 2, so for the first time ever, they had someone beat stage 2 though and move on to stage 3, and they actually had 2 people do it.
That says a lot about this show because these are not the hardest stages. And I don't know, man. that says a lot.
What says more to me, though, is I was really disappointed. So it's a momentous occasion, right? They're attempting stage 3 for the first time.
Oh, boy.
And they just breezed through it. Like, I was looking at the clock, how much time was left in the episode. Like, really? This is how much you're going to showcase this big moment? And I was like, oh, yeah, and he fell. Like, it's a cliffhanger to start the whole thing. The guy got on it and fell right away. So they just... I mean, it was literally like a 5-second clip.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Between the very last second of the entire episode and the start of stage 3, there is 3 minutes and 41 seconds left of the episode. That's it.
Yeah, it was brutally short to cover 2 competitors trying something brand new. Like, they just don't milk it. I mean, granted, we are used to American Ninja Warrior that will milk something to death, like the other extreme.
Yeah. But honestly, I prefer the drama over just skipping it over, right?
Yeah, there's got to be a happy medium there. Like, I mean, these guys would be legends in American Ninja. They would show that clip of their stage 3 runs for the next 3 seasons as like this momentous occasion. Every time they took the course, you would see it 5 times.
I mean, I guess. I'm just glad they weren't laughing when the last guy fell.
True. That was a nice change. But yeah, they both went out on the cliffhanger, so we didn't get to see the rest of the course or see anybody attempt the final climb. But that was it. Other than the awarding of the badge of honor, as you do, did that strike you as a little bit odd? Not a play. I don't know where that came from. I was totally shocked when they did that. I mean, it's not a major thing, but at the same time, it was like, wait, what? The badge of honor?
I mean, I think it's pretty neat. It's something kind of like the finishers like shirts that you get from completing the qualifying stages in American Ninja Warrior. It's something neat that that competitor can come back in later seasons and show off and make it maybe like have some prestige with him. So I didn't mind that at all. It's something to stand out. I think it's creative.
Yeah, I guess it's not that I didn't like it. I was just surprised by it. And it's awarded to the last man standing, as they called it. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, just screw whoever that laughing host is. I hate him. And that's it. Screw that show. Moving on with my life. That is how many hours of my life I'll never get back, and I am not happy about it. So I hope you guys enjoyed our recaps, because ugh.
So you got to think, though, like the people that wanted us to recap it are probably fans of it. So I think we also...
Oh, well, good for you guys. I seriously doubt they're fans of it. I'm pretty sure they hate watch it, but...
Well, I think I think they suffered as much as we did because they had to listen to us bash their show repeatedly. So I think we're all in agreement that this will be the last season of Ninja Warrior UK we'll be doing.
Good.
Okay, so let's get through some of this ninja news. Well, first off, congratulations to those that competed in the National Ninja League Finals, which was this past weekend.
Yes.
And here are the results. So in first place for the men, we have Drew Dreschel.
Woo!
No big shock there. In second place, we had Alexander Mars. And third was Hunter Gerard.
Nice.
So in a field full of some huge names and some really strong competitors, that really says a lot about the skills of these guys. So congratulations to all three of you.
Congrats, guys. And for anybody like just listening that hasn't seen National Ninja League, the finals were like super legit. I mean, there were hundreds of people from all around the country involved with this. So it's no small feat for getting in even to the top 20, let alone the top 3. So huge congratulations to all of you guys. I thoroughly look forward to seeing you guys run again. So what about the women, man? I'm excited.
In first place was Alyssa Beard. In second is one of Bijan's favorites, Rachel Brown. And in third was McKinley Pierce.
Yes.
So again, a really strong field full of lots of top competitors. So congratulations to the women as well. It's absolutely phenomenal to watch. If you weren't watching Facebook over the weekend, you were missing out because there was lots of live streams going from the National Ninja League, and some of the people that were there were jumping in with their own as well. It was very cool to kind of pop in and see how everybody was making out. It was really fun to watch.
Yeah, and huge congratulations to Alyssa Beard. That the women's portion of the National Ninja League, I mean, the women really went out to play, and it was really, really neck and neck and intense going into this competition. So, she had a lot of competitors with her, and it takes a lot to go all the way and beat some of her competitors, and especially Rachel Brown. I mean, guys, she is so young, and she is just blowing me away every time I see her compete with all these other fantastic women. So, huge congratulations to Rachel Brown. I look forward to seeing you on American Ninja Warrior when I'm an old-ass man. And McKinley Pierce, good job.
All right, so we're not going to actually cover... we're already running a very long episode, so we're not going to cover the last runs from National Ninja right now. We'll loop back to it in future episodes, and we'll get into some more detail on the course and how these competitors did.
Yeah, we are running long.
Oh yeah, we are definitely running long this time. So I do want to touch base on some major news from the Team Ninja Warrior world. They have moved the dates and the networks. They've actually shifted them over to the USA Network, and it will be coming on April 18th.
This is huge, guys. This is really, really huge. For people that don't know, USA Network is one of the top cable networks in all of America. They host some of the biggest shows on television, like WWE, Raw and SmackDown, Suits, a bunch of other shows. And this is an amazingly big platform for Team Ninja Warrior. They're moving from 60.4% of households with television in the United States to 82.1% of households. That is a huge jump. USA Network is a lot bigger in various different territories, different countries, things like that. So there's a lot more opportunity for Team Ninja Warrior to get a much more bigger audience. And yeah, I mean, I am just so ecstatic. Not only that, I mean, everybody was just so worried, especially me, when I heard that Esquire Network was going down and Team Ninja Warrior would kind of just like phase out, and Team Ninja Warrior was such a big part of that network. So I'm really happy it's finding a new home, and not just a new home, but a much bigger home.
Yeah, it is really good news for Ninja in general, but specifically Team Ninja Warrior, which is one of our favorite shows, so we'll get to see that. And maybe it'll be a little easier for me to watch it this time, and be a little more accessible. So we'll see. That does open up some room for us to give some better coverage of Ultimate Beastmaster over the coming month as well.
Yeah, and for everybody, Team Ninja Warrior will premiere on April 18th.
And in the meantime, we have our 100th episode coming up, as I mentioned in our previous podcast. So we would appreciate if you could send us your audio, send us your video, let us know how much you love Ninja Warrior, how much you love National Ninja League, or our podcast, whichever way you'd like to do it. We'd like to put it all together for our 100th episode as a big celebration of everything ninja. And yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm excited. Next week, I'm going to the American Ninja Warrior Venice tapings. I obviously won't be able to spoil or I'm not going to be spoiling anything. But next week, we can have a fun discussion about what I saw and some components of, various, maybe the mood and everything going on. Because for everybody, the LA Venice, why do I keep saying Venice? It's not Venice anymore. the LA tapings at Universal Studios, it's the very starting point for the new season of American Ninja Warrior. So I'm excited to see the mood of all the competitors, the hosts, everything.
Yeah, and you might actually get a chance to meet and talk to some of the competitors too, so that'll be interesting. So that is it for this week. If you'd like to reach out to us or send in your audio or video, you can send it to rich@ninjapodcast.com. I am at Ninja Podcast on both Instagram and Twitter. And Bijan, how can they reach you?
Hit me up at Twitter and Instagram at Bijan151. That is Bijan 151.
All right. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a fantastic week.
Peace, y'all.